Yesterday, we studied the Mishnah on Daf Lamed Hey Amid Beis, and we got up to the Gemara on the top of Lamed Vav Amid Aleph. Let's just summarize one major point in the Mishnah, which will be the springboard for understanding the Gemara, the Sugya in the Gemara. The Mishnah tells us something about smicha over the paro shel Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol brought his own personal par as a korban chatos on behalf of himself and bnei beso, the members of his household. And when he was ready for the hakrov of the par, he would lean his two hands on the head of the par and recite a vidui al shmo val shem bnei beso, in order for that par to be machaper on behalf of himself and his bnei beso. Now, obviously, the smicha at the time of vidui, when the Kohen Gadol leans his two hands on the par, is on rosho shel par. That's true for every single korban. The Mishnah tells us, where is this par located? Now, logically, we would have said that the par should be located in what's called the tzafon, the northern part of the Azor. And the reason for that is because a korban chatos is called kodshei kodshim. And kodshei kodshim shchitason bat tzafon. We have a principle of samuch l'smicha shchita, which means that we always want to integrate the smicha with the shchita that comes right afterwards. And since the shchita has to take place in the tzfon hazara, in the case of kodshei kodshim, and now we're talking about a chatos, therefore the smicha should likewise take place in the tzafon. And yet, the Mishnah writes, and this is the only part of the Mishnah we want to review right now for our purposes, Bolo, the Kohen Gadol kametz al paro. So we're talking about the par chatos of the Kohen Gadol, and he now is coming to recite vidui over the head of the par. Where is the par located? It's in the Azorah, Bein ha'ulam v'lamizbeach, right? So the mizbeach is in the Azorah, and as you move deeper and deeper into the mikdash, and we've said this a million times over, you go from the east to the west. You move from the Azorah to the ulam, right? The ulam has this 10 amos in the structure of the Beis HaMikdash itself before you enter into the heichal, so that the Mizbeach is now located somewhere in the Azorah, and that's a machlokas, if you might recall exactly where in the Azorah it's located. Is it right middle in the Azorah? Is a little bit towards the south, towards the north? In any event, he now goes westward beyond the end of the Mizbeach into the area called Bein Ulam LeMizbeach. So there's a certain distance between the ulam and the mizbeach, and Belinetta will check out exactly how many amos it is. I simply don't remember. If anyone remembers, let me know. Anyway, in that area, that's where he's going to set up his par for smicha, to be somech es yadav al rosh hapar. But where's tzafon? I mean, we need tzafon here. We're talking about a korban chatos. So the Gemara immediately asks, is there any way of learning this Mishnah without Rabbi Shimon? We're going to have to introduce the shita of Rabbi Shimon to make any sense out of our Mishnah. Why? Because again, just to summarize, it's for me, not for you. You know it. The power of the Kohen Gadol is a chatos. A chatos needs shchita b'tzafon. And our Mishnah says that the smicha is going to be done bein ulam lemizbeach. Apparently, if the smicha is going to be done bein ulam lemizbeach. Then the shechita likewise is being done bein ulam lemizbeach. And which Tana would tell me that the area between the ulam and the mizbeach is in the tzafon of the azor? On shamalei the omer bein ulam lemizbeach tzafon. Now, again, Rabbi say, I'm not sure exactly what the Gemara means here when it says tzafon. Bein ulam lemizbeach is not tzafon. But I think what's happening is that we're upgrading the status of this area bein ulam mizbeach as if it were tzafon. It's going to be sort of an extension or auxiliary status of tzafon. Rabbi Shimon, the Sanya we learned in a brisa. Ezehu tzafon. Which area the Azara has the status of tzafon, and it's roy li shchitas kodshi kodshim. And in order to appreciate the answer to this question, that I made one mistake, and I apologize. I said Reb Shimon, it's really Reb Elazar Bireb Shimon. In order to understand this, we have to quote a pasuk at the beginning of Chumash Vayikra. It says "V'shachat oso," referring to the carbon ola, al yerech hamizbeach tzafona lifnei Hashem. So notice that the word tzafon appears in this pasuk because an ola is kodshei kodshim, which requires shechita and tzafon. That I understand, but please also note that it says al yerech hamizbeach. And the Brisa says, again, Rabbi Elazar is going to disagree with this, but the Brisa is recorded as saying that it means mikir shel mizbeach tzfoni. Biad kosel hazon. So this part of the statement, as the Brisa is going to say, attributed to Rabbi Yossi, this part, I call it the Reisha of Rabbi Yossi, makes sense, right? We're talking about the western wall of the Mizbech, right? The Mizbech is a square on the western wall, which is close, proximate to one of the walls of the Azara, obviously to the western wall of the Azara. The Azara is surrounded by walls. And when you talk about Kirchel Mizbeach Tzfoni, then you're talking about the western wall. So there's an area on the northern side of the Mizbeach that is proximate to the northern wall of the Mizbeach. Of the Azara. Right? So let's say your Mizbeach is on the northern side of the Azara. The northern part of the Mizbeach is almost contiguous to the northern wall that surrounds the Mizbeach. And that is called Tzafon. And in that area, the shechita of Kodshi Kodshim could take place. That I understand. But then he writes, the Zohar of Yossi, u'keneged kol hamizbeach kulo tzafon. What's he saying now? This baffles the mind. What do you mean keneged kol hamizbeach kulo tzafon? A mizbeach was on all four sides. So what's Keneged Kol Mizbeach Kulo Tzaf? I'm tempted to. Again, I'm going to reduce the chiddush here. I mean, it's sort of anticlimactic, but I think he's only pointing out here when he says Keneged Kol Mizbeach Kulo, he means on the northern side of the Mizbeach. But the problem is, isn't he repeating himself? He says, Mikir shal ha-Mizbeach tzfoni, the ad kosel hazorah. And now he says, Keneged Kol Mizbeach Kulo. If Kol Mizbeach Kulo is referring to the northern side, and only to the northern side, then he's basically repeating what he said before. Let me just see if I can add something here. So there's the Kirat Tzfoni of the Mizbeach, the Ad Kosel Ha Azara, the northern wall of the Azara. Now, what's Ukeneged Kol HaMizbeach Kulo Tzafon? Very difficult. But I think, again, I think what he's talking about is the after Mizbeach. Now, if you would go from Mizrach to Ma'arav, so you're drawing a line across the Mizbeach, and if that line is on the northern side of the Mizbeach, then that's called Keneged Kol HaMizbeach Kulo B'Tzafon. So what he means by Kulo, I believe, is stretching the entire northern side of the Mizbeach, going from east to west. Okay. Divrei Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, Mosif, Af Bein Ha'ulam Limizbeach. Now, he's already gone beyond the most northern part of the Mizbeach. Now he's entering into an open area that will lead him to the Ulam as he's going from east to west. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon adds that area to Tzafon. He's expanding the area of Tzafon from the actual northern side of the Mizbeach, which we said from there to the Kir, the Kosel on the northern side, going up and down from east to west. And now we're going beyond the north of the Mizbeach. We're moving from the Mizbeach towards the Ulam. And that area itself, says Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Shimon, is considered Tzafon. And there he could shech a korban kochi. So we're now to the west of the Mizbeach in an open area, and it's between the Ulam and the Mizbeach. And this area is also Tzafon, because it's beyond the Tzafon of the Mizbeach. And therefore it's an extra expansion of Tzafon. So I'm going to read to you a note here. The pasuk says, as we mentioned earlier, "V'shachat oso al yerech hamizbeach tzafona lifnei Hashem." And we're talking about Yerech HaMizbeach. So Rabbi Yossi takes this pasuk literally, and he says you have to be Al Yerech HaMizbeach Tzafon, on the northern side of the Mizbeach. Now, the Mizbeach is 32 amos, and on the northern side, anything that's on the east and the west, stretching from east to west, that 32 amos span, is considered Safon. And that's considered Al Yerech HaMizbeach Tzafon, literally at the foot of the Mizbeach. So this area that goes from north to south runs from the Mizbeach's northern wall to the northern wall of the Azar. And he has here a diagram in the English translation. Let me just see if I get anything out of this diagram. Okay, first you have to get your directions. So you're looking at the Mizbeach, which is going north and south. If you were to go from the Azara all the way to the Heichal, you'd be going from east to west. And now we have Rabbi Yossi. Let's just see. Rabbi Yossi is going to add on the northern side. Let's see. See, the trouble is he doesn't exactly draw the kosel on the northern side. That's what confuses me about this picture. But in any event, we always said that if you're coming in from the east, you turn right towards the north. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's going beyond the actual Mizbeach, turning north until he gets to the kosel on the northern side. Whereas Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon is going to add another area to the north, and that's going to be Beina Ulam LeMizbeach. So in this picture, if you were going from east to west, then there's a whole section here between the Mizbeach and the Ulam. That whole section is the extension of the northern side of the Azara, and it's considered to be Al Yerech HaMizbeach Tzafon. So it means that Al Yerech HaMizbeach Tzafon, according to Rabbi Elazar, if I understand this correctly, means Yerech is the side of the Mizbeach. We're on the northern side of the Mizbeach. But Tzafona, according to Rabbi Elazar, it means go beyond the Mizbeach towards the north. So you're constantly going north, and at some point, you're going to, what's the word? You're going to intersect. Oh, that's the word. At some point on the north, it's going to intersect with the Ulam. And that location, that space between the northern flank of the Mizbeach and the Ulam, that's going to be a strip of land which is considered north. And in fact, it seems like Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, if this diagram reads correctly, is going to take it all the way to the end of the entranceway into the Ulam. Now, if all that is north, then as far as Shechita Kodshei Kodshim is concerned, it makes sense that Bein Ulam and Mizbeach is considered Tzafon, and that's where you can do the Shechita of Kodshei Kodshim, and therefore you're going to do the Smicha there. Hence, we understand the Mishnah about Paro Shel Kohen Gadol. Rebbe Mosif, now Rebbe's going to add another expansion of Tzafon. Now keep in mind, if the Mizbeach is north and south, and you have the northern flank for Rabbi Elazar, and you're drawing a line north, so that the additional extension, according to Rabbi Elazar, which is called Bein Ulam and Mizbeach, is on the north, is on the, shall we say, the northern or left side of the Mizbeach. Rebbe is going to add an area on the right side. Why? Because that's also called Yerech HaMizbeach Tzafon. Why do you choose the left side, meaning moving towards the Darom? Why not turn towards the Mizrah? I mean, right, why are you turning towards the Ma'arav? Why not turn towards the Mizrah? And maybe that flank that leads you from the Mizbeach all the way to the Ulam, that area should be appropriate for Shechita of Kodshei Kodshim. Rebbe Mosif Af Mokum Drisas Ragle HaKohanim, the Af Mokum Drisas Ragle Yisrael. So to understand this, we have to keep in mind that when we talk about the Azaros, we're always going from east to west. But when we talk about the Mizbeach, we're going from north to south. Now we have an area on the east which will lead to the Mizbeach. And that means that from the east, you get to the Ezras Yisrael, and then you get to the Ezras Kohanim. And then you hit the Mizbeach on the northern side. Again, it's on the, shall I call it, the eastern side of the Mizbeach. So to the east, says Rebbe, you could also extend the north and call it Safon. And this means that there are full sections of the Ezras Yisrael and Ezras Noshim that are called Safon. I don't know exactly how far east he's willing to go, Rebbe. Let's see if we can get an answer to that question. He says, Rebbe, like Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon, holds that Al Yerech HaMizbeach includes even areas that are near the foot of the Mizbeach. Which is called the Yerech HaMizbeach. So Rebbe rules that all of the northern half of the Azara, even that which is to the east of the Mizbeach, okay, so we got it right, is also an area that qualifies for the Shechita of Kodshei Kodshim. Oh, he says the area to the east of the Mizbeach measures 22 amos. 11 amos is the Ezras Kohanim, and another 11 amos is the Ezras Yisrael. So it seems, if I understand this correctly, that what Rebbe is adding is a strip of, of, of location that is 22 amos. Now, what confuses me is, why does the Gemara feel compelled to identify the Tanav Mishnah as Rabbi Lazar? Does Rebbe deny Rabbi Lazar? We said that Rebbe's only adding to Rabbi Lazar. Because Miyerecha Mizbech Tzafora could go on both sides, not just the southern side, but also the northern side. Aval mina chalifos bilifnim hakol modim sheposel. Okay, so we have an area called the Lishkas Chalifos, and there's no one would say that you could shech kachim in that area. Hakol modim sheposel. Let's just summarize. According to Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon, that space between the Mizbeach and the Ulam is perfectly valid for Shchitas Kodshei Kodshim. Now, what about Rebbe? Maybe we could, maybe I have a problem here about Rebbe, but let's see, maybe I can fit it into the Gemara's language. Lema Rab Lazar Reb Shimoni v'lo Rebbe. In other words, what the Gemara is suggesting here is that Rebbe has an added area, we'll call it the extension area of Safon, but he doesn't add on to Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon. So that Rebbe would hold that the area to the east of the Mizbeach, that could be called Safon. However, the area between the Ulam and the Mizbeach is not called Safon. And therefore, our Mishnah here in Yoma could not possibly be reconciled with Rebbe. It could only be reconciled with Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon. Afilu Temer Rebbe, the Gemara says, no, we can reconcile our Mishnah even with Rebbe. Hashta Rebbe ad Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda Mosif, ad Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon Lo Mosif. No, it's to the same extent that Rebbe added an area to what Rabbi Yossi said was the Tzafon. You remember that Rabbi Yossi wanted to draw a straight line from the Yerech HaMizbeach Tzafona to the Kosel on the left side, and certainly Rebbe is adding something on the other side, on the eastern side, and Rebbe is not adding something to Rabbi Lazar Reb Shimon. Why do you assume so? If he allows the less sanctified area east of the Mizbeach to be used for Shchitas Kodshei Kodshim, because again, Rebbe was adding the east, how much more so would he add Bein Ulam Mizbeach on the western side? That has a greater Kedusha. Perforce, Rebbe does mean to add his area to the area proposed by Reb Elazar Reb Shimon, and therefore those who attribute the Mishnah to Reb Elazar, they don't intend to the exclusion of Rebbe. So at this point, the Gemara concludes that our Mishnah could be reconciled not only with Reb Elazar Reb Shimon, but also with Rebbe. Gemara says, and with this we'll conclude, Anan hachi kamrina, nukme bekule azara. So this Gemara about nukme bekule azara, b'li neder, will pick up tomorrow. I think that would already lead us to a more complicated discussion, and we'll set that aside for tomorrow. Again, I want to reiterate my my invitation for Leil Lag BaOmer 7:00 on Thursday evening at Sholzen number 16, 2 flights down. Join us for Lag BaOmer. We'll be mostly outside for those who are a little bit nervous during Corona. And